Our Lady of Fatima. Between May 13th and October 13th, 1917, Our Lady appeared 6 times to 3 children, Jacinta and Francisco Marto, and Lucia de Santos, asking them to recite the Rosary, to do penance, to pray for sinners, to avoid sin, to tell people to come to the Cova Diarrhea in processions, and that a chapel should be built on the site. She also asked for consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart, so that peace could be given to the world, and promised a miracle so that all would believe. The promise was fulfilled with the Dance of the Sun on October the 13th, when she appeared as Our Lady of Mount Carmel. The Secrets of Fatima. The first secret was a vision of hell, which Lucia describes in her 3rd memoir as follows. Our Lady showed us a great sea of fire, which seemed to be under the earth. Plunged in this fire were demons and souls in human form, like transparent burning embers, all blackened or burnished bronze, floating about in the conflagration, now raised into the air by the flames that issued from within themselves, together with great clouds of smoke, now falling back on every side like sparks in a huge fire, without weight or equilibrium, and amid shrieks and groans of pain and despair, which horrified us and made us tremble with fear. The demons could be distinguished by their terrifying and repulsive likeness to frightful and unknown animals, all black and transparent. This vision lasted but an instant. How can we ever be grateful enough to our kind Heavenly Mother, who had already prepared us by promising in the first apparition to take us to heaven? Otherwise, I think we would have died of fear and terror. The second secret included Mary's instruction on how to save souls from hell and convert the world to the Christian faith, also revealed by Lucia in her 3rd memoir. You have seen hell, where souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved, and there will be peace. The war is going to end, but if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pius XI. When you see a night illuminated by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given you by God that He is about to punish the world for its crimes by means of war, famine, and persecution of the Church and of the Holy Father. To prevent this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart and the communion of reparation on the first Saturdays. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted, and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world, causing wars and persecutions of the Church. The good will be martyred. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. Various nations will be annihilated. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, and she shall be converted, and a period of peace will be granted to the world.
Because by thy holy cross thou hast redeemed the world.
Large numbers of people followed him, and of women too, who mourned and lamented for him. But Jesus turns to them and said, Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep rather for yourselves and for your children. For the days will surely come when people will say, Happy are those who are barren, the wombs that have never borne, the breasts that have never suckled. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, to the hills, cover us. For if men use the green wood like this, what will happen when it is dry? Consider how those women wept with compassion at seeing Jesus in such a pitiable state, streaming with blood as he walked along.
The third secret, a vision of the death of the Pope and other religious figures, were revealed in June 2000 and reads, after the two parts which I have already explained, at the left of Our Lady and a little above, we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire. But they died out as they came in contact with the splendor that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand. Pointing to the earth with his right hand, the angel cried out in a loud voice, penance, penance, penance. And we saw an immense light that is God, something similar to how people appear in a mirror when they pass in front of it, a bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father. Other bishops, priests, religious men and women going up a steep mountain, at the top of which there was a great cross of rough-hewn trunks, as of a cork tree with the bark. Before reaching there, the Holy Father passed through a big city, half in ruins and half trembling with halting steps. Afflicted with pain and sorrow, he prayed for the souls of the corpse he met on his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees at the foot of the big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him, and in the same way there died one after another the other bishops, priests, religious men and women, and various lay people of different ranks and positions. Beneath the two arms of the cross there were two angels, each with a crystal asporium in his hand, in which they gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. O Lady, cease not to watch over us, preserve and guard us under the wings of your compassion and mercy, for after God we have no hope but you. Why should I believe the message of Fatima? You should believe the message of Fatima because it was confirmed by an unprecedented miracle, the miracle of the sun, which occurred at precisely the moment Lucia said it would. More than 70,000 people, including Masons, communists and atheists, saw the sun, contrary to all cosmic laws, swirl in the sky, throw off colors and descend to the earth. The event was reported in newspapers around the world, including the New York Times. B. All of the popes since the Fatima miracle have recognized that the message is authentic. Several popes have gone to Fatima in person, including Paul VI, John Paul I, and John Paul II. John Paul II said at Fatima in 1982 that the message of Fatima imposes an obligation on the Church. C. Many other miracles have been performed by God authenticating the Fatima message as coming from him, not only at the time of the miracle of the sun on October 13, 1917, but down the years to the present day. Miracles of conversions and cures which science cannot explain by natural means. D. The message of Fatima accurately predicts world events, which proves that it is a true prophecy. What did the message of Fatima predict? The message of Fatima accurately predicted in 1917 all of the following events which came to pass. First, the end of World War I. Second, the emergence of Russia as a world power which would spread its errors, including communism, throughout the world, raising up wars and persecutions against the Church. 3. The election of a pope who would be named Pius XI. 4. The waging of the Second World War, following a strange light in the night sky. The message of Fatima also predicted that if the requests of the Virgin Mary at Fatima are not honoured, many souls will be lost. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. There will be further wars and persecutions of the Church, and various nations will be annihilated. The annihilation of nations predicted at Fatima have not yet occurred, but many fear that it will soon happen, given the growing immorality and corruption of the world. What does the message of Fatima request? At Fatima, Our Lady said that God wished to establish in the world the devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. At Fatima, Our Lady said that God wished to establish in the world devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Our Lady said that many souls would be saved from hell and the annihilation of nations averted if, in time, devotion to her Immaculate Heart were established principally by these two means. 1. The consecration of Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary by the Pope together with the world's bishops in a solemn public ceremony, and 2. The practice of receiving Holy Communion and other specific devotions of about half an hour in duration, in reparation for the sins committed against the Blessed Virgin Mary on the first Saturday of 5 consecutive months, a practice known to Catholics as the First Saturday Devotion. Have these requested of Our Lady of Fatima been honoured? No, not entirely. A number of the faithful practice the First Saturday Devotion, but Russia has not yet been consecrated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary in a solemn public ceremony conducted by the Pope together with the world's Catholic bishops. In 1982, the last surviving seer, Lucia, who was then a cloistered nun living in Coimbra, Portugal, was asked if an attempted consecration by Pope John Paul II had sufficed. She replied that it did not suffice, because Russia was not mentioned and the world's bishops had not participated. Another attempted consecration in 1984 likewise did not mention Russia or involve the participation of many of the world's bishops. And Sister Lucia stated immediately afterwards that this consecration too had failed to meet Our Lady's requirements. What does the message of Fatima warn? It warns that if the requests of Our Lady of Fatima for the consecration of Russia and the First Saturday devotions are not honoured, the Church will be persecuted. There will be other major wars. The Holy Father will have to suffer, and various nations will be annihilated. Many nations will be enslaved by Russian militant atheists. Most important, many souls will be lost. What does the message of Fatima promise? The message of Fatima promises that if the requests of Our Lady of Fatima are carried out, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, which will be converted, and a period of peace will be granted to mankind. Isn't it true that the consecration of Russia was done in 1984 and that the fall of communism proves that the consecration was effective and that Russia is now converting? No, it is not true. We know that it's not true because On March 25th, 1984, after the consecration of the world, Pope John Paul II said twice that Our Lady of Fatima's request for the consecration of Russia was not done. Soon after the attempted consecration in 1984, which did not mention Russia or involve the participation of the world's bishops, Sister Lucia stated it was insufficient because it did not meet the requirements specified by Our Lady. Since 1984, the moral and spiritual state of the world has obviously grown far worse. In the past 14 years, there have been 600 million abortions, and wars have broken out all over the world. Mercy killing and homosexual acts have been legalized. In Russia itself, a new law has been passed which discriminates against the Catholic Church and in favor of Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, and the Orthodox churches, which forcibly occupied Catholic parishes under the communists. Thus, it is clear Russia is not converted to the Catholic faith, as Our Lady of Fatima promised would happen if her request was done. There have been very few conversions to Catholicism in Russia over the past 14 years. In all of Russia today, there are only 300,000 Catholics, much less than 1% of the Russian population. By comparison, after Our Lady appeared at Guadalupe, Mexico, in the 16th century, more than 7 million Mexicans converted from paganism to the Catholic faith within 9 years, and Mexico became a Catholic country. Why is the message of Fatima important to me and my family? The message of Fatima is important to you and your family because it involves the salvation of souls, peace in the world, and if the requests of Our Lady of Fatima are not carried out, the consequences are the annihilation of nations and the enslavement of all mankind under militant atheists of Russia. But isn't the message of Fatima just a private revelation which no Catholic has to believe? No, it is not just a private revelation. It is a public, prophetic revelation given by the Virgin Mary, the Mother of God. It is not to be confused with revelation, or, as it is also called, the deposit of faith, which ended with the death of the last apostle. But public, prophetic revelation must not be despised. The Virgin Mary's prophecy was confirmed by a miracle and authenticated by the whole line of popes. Also, its predictions have come true. So while belief in the message of Fatima may not strictly be required for Catholics as an article of faith, one would be very foolish to disregard such an obvious, authentic message from heaven. As St. Paul taught, despise not prophecies, but prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. The prophecy of Fatima has been proven worthy of belief. We should not despise it, but rather hold fast to what Our Lady told us at Fatima.